Welcome back to the Morgan Streetman Show. It's time to go out there, and this out there is going to be a lot of fun because it's going to be sort of a nostalgic trip out there. This may have been the first out there you've ever done, Morgan Streetman.
You know, I didn't go back and check, but I think you might be right. This could be the very first out there that we ever did, because I know it's been over 3 years since we've talked about giants.
Were we tiptoeing out there, and now we're just going full force out there? No, you were getting into it then, too.
We've got our big feet just slapping around now. We're running right in there. And I tell you, I love the story of giants because I think it's like the forgotten history of our world to a degree. In other words, you know, we all grew up thinking that giants were mythological creatures, that they never really existed on this planet, certainly don't exist anymore. But, of course, we're really the last, say, 100 years, the 20th century of the world in America is really the first place that was ever the predominant way of thinking about giants as mythology. See, in almost all prior instances and throughout most of history, giants were actually believed to be part of the world. They were believed to exist or to have existed in the past at different times and in different places. And the cultures of the world are just replete with stories of giants. I mean, we've covered some of them here, like the Navajo shoe game song, you know, and basically that involves all the animals playing this game with a ball and the shoes, and basically one of the animals that's sung about in the song is the giant. The giant. So, I mean, the Navajo were talking about giants. And Pat George, you just pulled up Genesis 6:4, you know, which talks about the Nephilim. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. The same were the mighty men that were of old, the men of renown. And that, of course, is one of the mentions in the Bible of giants. I mean, we have others. We've got one that's very specific about a giant named Goliath. Remember him? And he was maybe 9.5 or 10 feet tall or so, given the measurements, which I think was 6 cubits in a span, was the height of Goliath. So that'd be like 9.5 feet to 10 feet tall. So that's pretty huge. And by the way, 8 feet is where really the changeover comes from, you know, all the way up to 7'11", maybe just right at 8 feet is human height. That's legitimate human height and potential. And there's about, I think, a handful of human beings on the planet right now that are over 8 feet tall. But you go to like 7'11" and you're getting into thousands of people. So that really 8 foot is almost the cutoff height for human height. So where you start to really get into stories of people who are, you know, outside of the normal realm is when they get over 8 feet tall. And Pat, you're pulling up a picture of a guy who was 8'11", who
11.1 inches.
We think was a normal human. I mean, we don't know that he had giant DNA or whatever. And by the way, there does seem to be a few differences between humans and giants. For example, throughout the historical record, when they found giant skeletons or skeletons of what they thought were giant humans, a lot of time, you know, they've had double rows of teeth.
Really?
Yeah, double rows of teeth. Can you believe that?
Well, you need more teeth to chew more food to have calories to maintain that body.
It's kind of like a shark almost with the rows of teeth that keep coming forward. But giants were well known for having 2 rows of teeth.
Interesting.
And the teeth apparently are perfectly preserved, even though they may have been, you know, essentially fossilized.
Boy, you Google giant and some strange things are coming up in here, Pat George, so just be careful.
Pat George is having fun on the screen right now,
Well, there's
folks.
Andre the Giant.
Oh, yeah, what a great giant he was.
They normally don't live that long, though, do they?
Well, okay, now here's the differential, though. You're talking about humans with gigantism, like Andre the Giant, who have a condition that causes their body, like Andre the Giant, to continue to produce growth hormone. And he, you know, it's gigantism. And that's not the kind of giants that we're talking about. We're talking about giants that are not human. They may look human and they may have similar characteristics to the human species, but these are different. These are different because they are so much taller that doesn't fall within the human species, you know, genetic capability to be that tall. You know, and one of the folks who kind of brought giants into popular culture in more recent times, and now we're going to have to go back only about 499 years now, but in more recent times was Ferdinand Magellan. And you know that in, I think it was like mid-March, so right, just almost exactly 499 years ago, in the year 1520, Ferdinand Magellan was sailing around the world, and he stopped in a place that we now call South America, and we call Patagonia. And one of the things that they saw there, they saw people, supposedly, who were twice as tall as they were. What they said was twice as tall as a normal man. And in fact, that's even where the name Patagonia comes from. Patagon means large foot. So they actually named this part of what we now call South America after the race of giants that they met there, that they saw there. And there are drawings of them and things like that. And they came back to Europe. They continued their journey around the world. And they came back to Europe with all these wonderful stories. And actually, it was like, and I'll try to think of a good equivalent, but it was like the viral video of its day, okay? In 1500s Europe, in mid-1500s Europe, the drawings and the idea that there were giants in the New World was extremely fascinating to people. They were just transfixed by the idea of it. And, of course, they came from a belief system where they believed that there were giants in the past that were around, that interacted with humanity and things like that, and that we've kind of essentially killed them off over time. And by the way, that's what history tells us has happened, is that these giants were actually killed off. I mean, like the giants that were told in the Bible were in the Promised Land. You know, when the Israelites came into the Promised Land and they sent some spies in there, and they said that we were like grasshoppers in their sight. So those could have been giants maybe as tall as 36 to 60 feet. And, I mean, you did a funny face
Those were called
there.
dinosaurs.
Yeah, I mean, now we're talking huge giants. I mean, this is not Goliath size, 10 feet tall, which, by the way, would be just huge. If we had a 10-foot tall person in here, you would be amazed at how much taller 10 feet is than we are. But now when you get up to like 36 or 60 feet, I mean, you're talking about you don't even come up past their ankle. Okay, you're standing up tall, straight as you are, 6 foot tall, and you're not passing their ankle. That's a different world now. That's a different kind of creature. That's a creature. Okay, now you're talking about, you know, when you pointed back to the Genesis story, and you're talking about angels having children with human women and then becoming these monsters like we hear about in Greek mythology, you know, the Titans, these monstrous creatures, giants. Now maybe you're talking about that. You could be talking some language there, Pat George, on that one. But anyway, I just find it completely fascinating that we as a culture, I mean, if I ever tell people about this out and about, they like roll their eyes at me. If I try to say, hey, do you know that there were giants in history? By the way, Pat George, I am a fascinating dinner conversation partner. And,
yes, you are. I have lots of friends that enjoy lunch with you.
You take cocktail party conversation to a new level, Morgan.
That's right. If you want to really mix it up at your next cocktail party, I'm available, folks. I'm available. I'll come right down and start talking about giants.
Cocktail partistry.
That's right. That's right. Well, thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week, folks. I'm Morgan Streetman, and that's the way I see it. Thank you for listening to the Morgan Streetman Show. We hope you enjoyed what you heard, and if you did, please click like and subscribe to help us out. And don't forget to exercise your brain at least once a week.